Shalom, all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect Archeum that are teaching this word. Shalom, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Now, as you can see in this video, this Eve, basically she does like social commentary, and she goes into, stuff within society, race, and a number of other stuff. She says some bugged out stuff also, but she makes a great point in this video that links up with the scriptures. The elder brother, from the camp sent me this video, and she makes some great points, pretty much in this video. She goes into the fact that Elam in England, Elam as we know is the East Indians, so like the Indians, the Pakistanis, that community. Basically, she touches on the fact that they were set up as like a buffer community between Esau and Jake, basically. So they're set up, and how they've got shops and all these things, shops and businesses within Esau's kingdom, and basically Jake is at the bottom. So she makes that point, and that's scriptural. The scriptures talk about the heathens, licking the sores, basically, meaning they're licking the sores of our oppression, the other nations. All right, so that's the East Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese. They're all profiting off of our decline, off of our demise. They're profiting with Esau, which is all biblical. All right, the Lord said they will also have basically mini kingdoms, if you like, along with the beast. Okay, so they're sharing. Esau's giving them crumbs of the spoils, man. So she makes this great point that basically Elam in England is like a buffer community between Jake and the so-called white man. So let me, which are the Edomites. So let me play this clip here, and then we're gonna read some scriptures.
South Asian community, let me clear something up for you real quick, because apparently history is now seen as racism when you call it out loud. What I said about the South Asian community is absolutely true. You were the buffer class. And just because you don't like what I said, it doesn't make it hateful. So let me re-jog your memory, since you have a hard time connecting the dots. After World War II, Britain was broke, and they called on the Commonwealth countries to help. The Windrush generation, mostly Caribbeans, answered the call first. They rebuilt this country, worked in hospitals, drove the buses, taught the kids, and kept the economy moving. And what did they get in return? No blacks, no dogs, no Irish. They were met with hostility, racism, and rejection, to be exact. So a few years later, Britain opened up its doors again, this time to the South Asians, and they invited India, Pakistan, and Bangladeshi countries to come to Britain. And yes, they faced discrimination, but here's where it gets real. Because Britain treated South Asians very differently. So when the South Asians got here, white society decided that you could buy properties, that you could trade, and that you could run the corner shops. They saw your community as malleable and compliant, not equal, but useful economically. And that is how you were described as the buffer class between white people and black people. It's kind of like a middle layer between black exclusion and white dominance. That is where you sit. That's not me hating. That's how the system designed it to be. And this is what I kept saying. It's socially engineered for you guys to be in the position that you are today in this country. It's the same tactics that they use in all of our countries like Africa, the Caribbean, and Indian. If you divide all of the groups and oppress them and let them fight amongst each other, they will never unite and challenge the system. Now, fast forward to today, and the South Asian communities has built generational wealth. That's through pooling resources, that's through discipline and unity. And as I said in my last video, it's very commendable. But it's also true that the system made ways for your community that it didn't for black people. Banks would lend to you before us, landlords would sell to you before us, and employers would hire you before us. So when I point out that your community can be very insular, right, doing business within itself and struggling with inclusivity, that is not me being racist. That is me observing the very real reality in what goes on in your community. There's also been a lot of South Asians that have come to me and confirmed this. You do have colorism within your community. You do have a caste system. And you have anti-blackness within your own homes. So when you're struggling with colorism within your own community, what makes you think that we would believe that you would embrace blackness outside that? But again, it isn't about hate. It's about patterns coming from colonial conditioning. And let me make myself clear. This isn't about the blame game. It's about accountability for all communities. I also want to touch on black activism and how you have benefited from it politically. Black people took the beatings. Black people were over-policed. Black people fought for their rights to be treated fairly and equally. We demanded justice that every other minority benefits from today. So when I call out your communities, that is not hate. That is me asking for reciprocity and recognition. So when you want to throw around the word racist in my direction, let's take a look at the impact and the intent. My intent is truth. My impact makes people feel uncomfortable, as it should. Because the system wants black and brown people to be divided, but we don't feed into that system as much as you do, unfortunately. And if telling the truth makes me a villain, so be it. For the South Asian...
You know what? She's spot on with what she said. Absolutely, she's spot on. Now, you know, obviously we're not black people, we're the Israelites. See, that's where our people, you know, lack true understanding. We are the children of Israel. That's why we go through these things. Nonetheless, she said some really truthful things there. All right. And obviously she ruffled some feathers because, you know, people are all messed up on them comment boards, man. Other Elam and people are agreeing, and Elam, you know, they run with that. Some people was on the comment boards running with that narrative. No, we just work hard. You know, black people are lazy, that bullshit. No, but the truth is the system Esau set up, he set it up where the heathens are like a buffer class, man. So Jake can't achieve anything. They, like she mentioned, they wouldn't loan in the banks, etc., to Jake, but they would to these other nations, in particular Elam within England. The same things in America. So all the struggles Jake has gone through, the civil rights movements, the fighting for our rights over here in England with Benjamin, it's all these heathens that are prospering from it while we've been beat down. But that's all in the scriptures, man. So this is Revelation 17 and 12. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings on earth with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." Yeah, basically the 10 horns is pretty much, you know, going into basically, you know, Esau's like cohorts, all right, that are linked with this empire, basically, you know. So obviously, you know, you got Germania Major, Germania Minor, you know, Germania Major, Germania Minor, you know, the Franks, you know, then basically the NATO and the EU nations today, all right, that represents the 10 horns, all right. You know, England will be a part of that, France is a part of that, Germany, okay, they will represent. They're linked with the beast. They're part of the beast system. They're part of this empire, so to speak. Okay? This Roman Empire that we're in. They're part of it, so to speak. Which they are, right? But then it says here, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And that also goes into they receiving power as kings 1 hour with the beast, all right? Meaning pretty much they see the America, which is Babylon the Great, is the great nation. But then within that, you have other nations that have come there and basically prospered within the beast system. That's like it's saying here. So that's where you get like these nations that are linked to the beast, you know, linked to Babylon the Great, you know. So like the Japanese, the Chinese, they all do business with America, right? So it says here, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they have basically their own little mini kingdoms going on. All right, primarily the Edomite nations. The Edomite nations prosper under America. So that's why when you had when you had the 19th century, the 18th and 19th century, when you had the Italians and the Irish and whatnot go over to America, which we know a lot of them are Jakes, they were predominantly what? White looking Jakes. And they were the ones that ended up what? Living the American dream. You had Germans go to America, all kind of European so-called white people went to the Americas and prospered. All right. So they basically, it says here, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Yeah. So they basically have a portion of the wealth of Babylon. All right. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Yeah. So they all incorporated under one mind. And it's the same thing like that woman was saying, Elam have prospered under this empire because Esau set it up that way. And they have the mindset of oppressing the Israelites. Why? Because they're doing the bidding of they're doing the bidding of Esau Edom, man. They're doing the bidding of the beast, man. Okay? But anyway, it goes into here, verse 14 says, these shall make war with the Lamb, which is the 10 horns. So that's NATO, the EU, the Roman Empire system shall make war with the Lamb, which is Yahweh Shai. All right? And it says, and the Lamb shall overcome them. And for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So yeah, Yahweh Shai, all these nations, NATO, the EU, the America, they're all going to go against. They're all gonna try to fight Yahweh Shai, basically, and he's going to destroy them. And even in the midst of that, you're going to have the Chinese try and fight the Lord, the Chinese militaries, the Japanese militaries, the East Indian militaries, all the nations, man, because they're all in one cahoot. In fact, let me get this. It just came to my mind. Psalms 83, I think it's 83. Okay, hold on, bear with me. Bear with me for 1 second. It's not Psalms 83. Yeah, Psalms 83. Salakia. Psalms 83 and 5. But no, I'll start from the top. Psalms 83 from the top. It says. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O Lord. Hold not thy peace, and be not still. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. Yeah, the enemies, they made a tumult. They come together. And it says, they that hate thee have lifted up their head. All the nations hate us, all right? And our prime nation, that's the primary people that hate us the most are the Edomites, and they are the ones in power today. So it says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Yeah, they've taken crafty counsel. You know, what's part of the crafty counsel? Letting these heathen nations that can't speak no English come to America, come to England. You get an Indian come to America and becomes a millionaire in fucking 2 years. And then you have a so-called African American, which is a Judite, of the tribes, living in America all their lives and can't achieve anything. That's all systematic, man. It's all set up by our enemies. All right, because these nations, the other nations, are our enemies, man. It's that simple. Okay, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And that's what they have tried to do, which the Lord's reviving us with information, with this truth, with truth as people bringing knowledge out. Like that girl, for example, she's bringing out the fact that Elam is a buffer nation between Esau and Jake in England and how the system uses them. Yes, that's information it's being brought out on them. They have said, come and that's them taking crafty counsel, man. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, which is what they have done, but we're reviving. That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Yeah, because Now we know we're the Israelites, but for a time, Israel, that name was equated to the so-called Jews, man. Now it's coming back to the fact that it's being equated to blacks, Latinos, and Native American people, man. That we are the children of Israel. All right, we're the people of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, we're the people of the Lord. Okay, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. Yeah, these nations all consult with one consent. So it's no coincidence that you have Elam prospering, Moab prospering. Moab's got Chinese food shops in the ghetto for 50, 60, 70 years, making millions off our people, man. And our people can't get grants and loans to open stores. All right? And if it does, it tanks. It goes downhill within a year, within a few months. Why? Because we're under these curses, man. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Yeah, they're all together, these nations. Like we always go into it. When these nations meet up, they have their summits and their meetings. The NATO meetings, the NATO and the EU nations meet up. You get the UN nations, they meet up. What are they talking about? All these other nations. They're consulting to keep our people down, man. We've always said that at them UN meetings, man. And it's the truth. It says, I'll read it, verse 6, the tabernacles of Edom, that's the first nation. Who's the Edomites? The so-called white man. And the Ishmaelites, which is the Arabs, and Moab, which is the Chinese, and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon, which is the Japanese, and Amalek, the so-called Jew, and the Philistines and the inhabitants of Tyre, which that's them Hamites, but the Philistines, that land today is ruled by who? It's being ruled by, those Amalekites and Ishmaelites and all that within that region, all right? But the real Philistines are them Hamites, all right? So it goes into all of that. These nations all together, man, okay? They all against our people. Elam, the East Indians, the Chinese, the Arabs, they're all against our people, man. It's all biblical, okay? So let me read this here. Luke 16 and 19. Luke 16 and 19. Luke 16 and 19. Okay? It says, there was a certain rich man. This is the parable of Lazarus, and the rich man. Okay? It says, and there was a certain rich man, which that represents the elite families, which is the rich man in this world, and Lazarus represents the Israelites, our people, man, which are at the bottom, suffering in this society, man, being oppressed, right? And that's a fact, man. So there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. That's talking about these wicked elite families, man, primarily. But it trickles down to all these so-called white people, these Edomites, man. Especially the ones with a portion of wealth within this society, man. This is what that's primarily talking about. And even all these other nations, they've built generational wealth with the beast, man. The Chinese, they've built generational wealth. The Japanese within America, they built generational wealth. The East Indians, they built generational wealth off of the backs of our people's oppression, man. And that's a fact, all right? So it goes on to say, and there was a certain beggar named Lazarus. It says he fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores. Yeah, injured, man. That represents our people, basically. Lazarus represents the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. We're full of sores. We're injured right now, man. Okay? And it says, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table, moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. Yeah, so I wanted to read that part, really. It says, so our people, what are they always desiring? To achieve something within this society, man. All right? To get the crumbs off the tables of these rich so-called white people, these elites. That's what our people do, right? But it said, which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. The dogs is symbolic of these other nations, like that girl mentioned, the buffer nations within society. How these, like an East Indian can be dark as hell, can be darker than the so-called Negro, but then they won't call him black within society. Oh, he's an Indian, he's a Sri Lankan, right? But then they put these labels within our people. Why? Because they're not Israelites and they're not being oppressed like our people are. They're the dogs that are licking our sores, man. All the fighting and civil rights and the oppression our people went through, and who's the ones prospering off of it? The Chinese, the Arabs, the East Indians. They're all making money, you know, because of the laws that were passed through all the fighting our people did, man. See? So they're the dogs that are licking our sores. They're furthering our affliction. They're helping our, you know, they're basically our wounds, our open wounds. They're further injuring us, man. But guess what? They're going to be judged for all of that, man. Because they're going in slavery. All these other nations, the so-called white man, see, the tables are going to be flipped. We're going to be on top, and these other nations are going to be at the bottom. And the so-called white man, the Edomites, which are the people ruling today, you know, they're going to be completely at the bottom. All right? This is the future. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 15. I'll read from 15. Bear with me. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." Yeah, we are under curses. Why? Because we disobeyed Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai's law, statutes, and commandments. We, as a people, disobeyed his commandments. All right? And that's the story of our people. We disobey his commandments. The Lord scatters us, makes us go crazy, leaves us out in nowhere, you know. But now he's bringing us back. So it says, shall overtake thee, them curses. It says, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field." Yeah, we'll be cursed in the city, meaning, you know, we're just fucked up in this world. Like we was going to, first fired, last hired. We can't get the jobs, desired jobs. These other nations are making money over us. So we got that curse on us. "Cursed shall thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thine kind and the flock of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand to do, thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me." Yeah, so that's what the Lord's done to us. He's basically cursed our life within this system, man. He's used the nations to oppress us. Anything we try to do, we can't prosper in it. You know, whether we're looked at in this world as evil, you know, which our people are in an evil state at the moment. But that's all created by the devil, man. You know, there's a big game being played. See? But pretty much we have curses on us, man. We're cursed within this world. Within the working environments, we have curses, you know? And these other nations, they prosper above us. Why? Because the Lord's put this, judgment on us, man. See? So it's all, like that girl was saying, it's true. It's all systematic. It's, you know, Esau, the system, sets it up where the nations can be over the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, all right? Where we can't really participate within this society. Now, things are slowly, because it's the end of the so-called white man system. So you're seeing Jakes achieving certain things, getting money or whatever it is that they're doing. But they're doing it at the end of the world, man. See? 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we weren't able to do shit, basically. It's only now Jake's starting to, you know, participate somewhat, you know, but it's still crumbs compared to what the wicked elite have and what these other nations have over our people. See? So this is Deuteronomy 30 and 7. It says, "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and upon them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." Yeah, so all these curses, you know, the first fired, last hired, all of that is going to be upon our enemies real soon, which the number one enemy is the tabernacles of Edom, the so-called white man, which is the nation that will be ruling when the Lord will make his second coming. That's the people on top today. So the curses are going to fall on these nations. And you can see it slowly is because, for example, the so-called white man, I mean, you'd have to be, which a lot of people are blind, you have to be blind to completely see his world is ending. To completely not see that his world is ending. His system is failing. He's being exposed every day. His world is ending. The curses are falling upon these Edomites, man. But it's going to fall on all these nations. See? Because when Yahushua comes back, he's only gonna uplift the Israelites. All right? and the elect to begin with of Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. We're going to be the ones exalted and put above again, man. And the nations will be, abased and put beneath us. See, things are going to be set up the right way. Okay? So they're going to be them that hate us, which is all these other nations, and which persecuted thee. Yeah, they persecuted us. Guess what? The curses are going to come on them. You can read it in Deuteronomy 28 and 15. That started that. Those curses, Deuteronomy 28, all the way, all that whole chapter, all those curses are going to fall on our enemies, man. They're about to lose everything. So, with that, I'm going to say all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that teaching his word. Shalom, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakha Kodash. Shalom, shalom.